Good morning and welcome to this morning's reflection. And this week we are going to continue the work of Joan Chichester, as a number of people have said to me that they have found these particular recordings and this particular work very helpful, as very little is written about aging. And today we're going to look at solitude. Life develops in stages. Some stages are more centered on the outside world, and some focus rather more on the interior world, on reflection, and on search for meaning. The last stage of life is an attempt to make sense out of everything that has gone before. And so at this stage of our lives, we may ask questions about what has gone before, about what has happened to us in our lives, and about what it means to us now. And we need to do this, we need to ask these questions with a brutal and uncomfortable honesty. We need at this time to stop excusing ourselves. To do this kind of thinking, we have to be alone. We have to be in solitude. When we find ourselves alone, all the people we have ever known, who are still very much alive in us, come back, and they help us to see where we have been. And they help us to understand what we have become. And they help us to chart what it will take to make these final years worthwhile. Most of the elderly today live alone. Aloneness is the monastery of the elderly. It is usually an aloneness that is not chosen. It is thrust upon the elderly. It could be an empty house somewhere, with very few members of the family close by. The problem of solitude is that we confuse it with aloneness or isolation. Isolation means that we are cut off from the rest of the world, and often this is beyond our control. We may be too sick, too frail, too shy, and too distant from others to have a social life. Solitude is different. Solitude is chosen. We choose to be alone in order to be with ourselves. We seek solitude for the sake of the soul. We have time to be by ourselves, to concentrate on the inner world rather than wrestling with what is going on around us. When the outside world goes silent and we are alone with ourselves, we enter our inner world. In solitude, we wait for all the noise to quiet in order to find out what we are really thinking and what we are really saying to ourselves underneath all the layers of other people's messages, these messages that threaten to smother the words of our own heart. Solitude empties us of all the rubbish that builds up in us over the years and lets us find a deep, calm place that makes aging such a serene part of life. It is the center of the soul where the unspoken in us runs deep. Here the ideas we long ago refused to allow ourselves to think and yet could never not think, these come to the surface. Here too come to the surface ideas we never knew we had. Now, in solitude, we have the opportunity to take them out, to turn them over in our minds, to look at them, to own them or disown them once and for all. They are part of us. They cry for some kind of settlement, not with anyone else, but within ourselves. We may ask, is this old anger worth it? Was that loss really a loss in the long run? How have we grown through not getting all that we wanted? It is in solitude that we come to be at peace with ourselves and with our lives, particularly the lives that are behind us now. We find ourselves back in contact with our past in a new way. We are beyond it now. Whatever we have done, it is no longer able to hurt us. We are no longer to be humiliated by our past, but rather we become stronger because of it. There is nothing we can change about what was, except the way that we look at it. Solitude is not a running away from life, from aging, from our feelings, but rather it is a time to sort them out and, in a sense, to move on from them. This is a life now to be lived, and it should not be infected by what went before. We have an obligation now to live well with the people around us, particularly those who make this new life possible. We owe them the best that we have, that which is undefiled by the past.